Hey guys, Oscar Combs here with another episode of The ISO Show. Today we're going to talk about Boeing. The Boeing Starliner leaves astronauts stranded in space for about 8 months. So here we have another blunder by Boeing. Boeing launched 2 astronauts into space on June 5th, 2024. Headed for the International Space Station for an 8-day mission. This was supposed to be an 8-day mission. Now, due to equipment failure, the astronauts will now return in 8 months, in approximately February 2025. They've already been stranded 2 months more than they anticipated. So now they have to wait 6 more months. Is this a nonconformity in space? Let's talk about it. All right, guys, let's talk about this. So we have these 2 astronauts, Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore, launched on a mission to the International Space Station on June the 5th for an 8-day mission on the Boeing Starliner. I mean, just think about this. You're just going on a short little business trip. Maybe that's you and I, right? We're just going on a short little business trip and we tell our family, hey, we'll be back next week. They have already been stuck in space 2 months more than they anticipated or planned on. Now, they plan on them being stuck in space all the way up until February 2025. And the other thing about it is they're not coming back on the spacecraft that they went on. They went on the Boeing Starliner and they're coming back on the SpaceX spacecraft. Now, Boeing stated that the reason why they can't come back on the aircraft that they went on, the Boeing Starliner, is because of helium leaks, thruster malfunctions, which they encountered on its way to the International Space Station. So let me get this straight. Boeing sent 2 astronauts to the International Space Station on an 8-day mission. Their spacecraft breaks down and now they need to hitch a ride on a SpaceX spacecraft? Wow, that is embarrassing for one. That is total lack of quality and risk management. Wow, talk about it, guys. Poor quality, poor risk management, assessment, control, poor equipment functionality, poor quality. Let's dig a little deeper into this incident here, guys. So these problems did just happen on the way to the International Space Station. Boeing found out about these issues way before then. But check this out. Boeing and SpaceX were both awarded government contracts from NASA to provide commercial transportation and flights for astronauts going back and forth to space. Boeing won a contract for $4.2 billion. Let me repeat that. $4.2 billion approximately. SpaceX won their contract for $2.6 billion. You know, a little half of that. So Boeing is still, now this was awarded, I believe in 2019, or let me look at my timeline here, make sure I get this right. 2014. Boeing was awarded this contract in 2014. And here it is, 2024, and they still haven't launched. Now, SpaceX has already launched several successful missions back and forth since, I believe, 2020. for half the cost. Both of these companies were awarded these contracts. Boeing got theirs in 2014. Here it is, 2024. They still haven't achieved a successful launch. Previously, Boeing had sent unmanned test flights, okay, back in 2019 and back in 2022. During those test flights, they experienced software issues and other issues, probably equipment-related issues, even at that time during these test flights. Now we are in 2024. Now they're trying to launch again, third time. And they attempted this third launch on May the 6th, 2024. 1 month before the actual launch that occurred on June the 5th, which stranded the astronauts. During the May 6th attempt, they discovered an issue with the propulsion system. Helium leaks. Wow. Boeing engineers suspected a defective seal, they say the size of a button. Now, they didn't say what size of a button, that was the cause of the helium leak. They found that out, as I mentioned, back on May the 6th. The helium is used to pressurize the fuel lines of the propulsion system. The propulsion system is what allows the capsule to move and maneuver. So without that, you're kind of stranded. Kind of like, you guys remember that that freight vessel that ran into the bridge. It lost its propulsion and ran right into the bridge. Kind of similar to this, they can't maneuver. They stated that even if the leak worsened, so when they found out about the helium leak, Boeing said, well, if this worsens, this is something that we can manage during flight. So this is all the way back in May, guys. Now, they were going to launch back in May, but there was a failure with the Atlas V rocket. It failed, so they couldn't launch. But that was when they also noticed the helium leak. So thank God that they were not able to launch, and thank God we had the rocket failure, because this actually turned out to be a big issue. So, but in addition to the helium leak, Boeing had discovered design vulnerabilities in the propulsion system itself. Well, hold on. So you're about to launch with people, with astronauts, and now because the rocket failed, now we have identified design vulnerabilities. We're supposed to do that before we put people in there and launch. Wow. Boeing said that they could develop a workaround this issue and still safely get the capsule out of orbit. So their response initially was, well, we can develop a workaround for this. The NASA Association Administrator, Jim Free, said, we're not going to fly until we are sure we are safe. Guys, I keep repeating this. This is not a safety issue. It's a quality issue that causes safety issues. See, our quality issues in our organizations can cause safety issues. Things that we think are safety problems are really plan, do, check, act problems, quality issues, process approach. Boeing referred to a workaround. A workaround is not what we call a corrective action. It's a workaround. It's a kind of a Band-Aid, if you will. So guys, we cannot, when we see we have problems, we cannot develop workarounds or temporary solutions. We need to slow down. Sometimes we need to go back to the drawing board, and we need to come up with proper root cause analysis and come up with proper corrective actions, which means that we eliminate the root cause of the problem. So guys, just like many organizations, in my opinion, Of course, I'm speaking my opinion, but my opinion is worth something. Is 30 years of experience. It's no doubt that Boeing was focusing on production pressures, right? Now, keep in mind, their competitor, SpaceX, has already done several successful launches for half the price. And here we have Boeing for double the price, awarded this contract in 2014, and now it's 2024, and they haven't done even one successful launch. So I can understand they're under a lot of pressure to get things done. But remember, Boeing is the same company that's been having diminishing quality for quite a while now, and they've been in the news quite a while. Here are some key incidences of late. So, of course, we talked about the 2014 award from NASA, $4.5 billion. But on October 29, 2018, 189 people, including the crew, died in a Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane crash in Jakarta, Indonesia. Only 13 minutes of taking off. On March the 10th, 2019, a Boeing 737 MAX 8, you guys remember these were their new planes they came out with, crashed in Nairobi, Kenya, only 6 minutes after takeoff. You guys remember that? It was in the news. All 157 people aboard died. That plane was only 4 months old. In 2023, it's reported that Boeing had lost $1.5 billion in developing the Starliner, this same spacecraft that failed in space. They had lost $1.5 billion. Their contract was $4.5 billion. And they lost $1.5 billion in 2023 working on this unit. On May the 5th, 2024, you guys remember this one? The Boeing 737 MAX 9, which is basically the 737 MAX 8. They gave it a new model because they updated the software. That door fell off, 16,000 feet in the air. You guys remember that? It's in the news. Google it. You can Google all of this. On March the 11th, 2024, it was reported by the New York Times that the Boeing whistleblower, his name was John Bornett. He was Bornett. He's a quality manager who raised concerns about quality issues at Boeing. He was found dead by what they believe to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. On March 26, 2024, a couple weeks later, after the quality manager killed himself, the Boeing CEO, Dave Calhoun, and other executives, they resigned from Boeing. Then on May 6, 2024, we have this failed launch of the Starliner. This is when they identified the helium leak, and they identified other equipment failures all the way back on May 6, 2024. Now, June 5th, 2024, 30 days after they discovered this helium situation, they actually launched. So we can call it a successful launch, but there's no successful return because now the astronauts are stuck in space. Now that unit will come back unmanned, but that's not a successful mission. Now, this is very interesting. On August the 4th of this year, Boeing announced that the astronauts are now stranded in space. Stranded, can you imagine that? You went on a short business trip, and now you're stranded there for 8 months. you had planned everything to be back in 8 days. Now it's 8 months. Wow. God, we don't get time back. This is what I don't think people that maybe the people at Boeing don't understand, or NASA. I mean, these astronauts, this is their passion. They love doing it, and they could be happy being up there for 8 months more than they anticipated. But the point is that this is 8 months out of their life that they had not planned for. They will never get this 8 months back. I mean, they're missing people's birthdays, possibly funerals, or other events. Their children. They can't. This is time that they can't spend with their families. Come on, guys. It's not just about 8 months here. If my opinion, they should do everything in their power to go get them right now and bring them back. Why should they have to wait 8 months? See, because we're making decisions based upon money. That's why. These two astronauts, they don't think it is worth economically to go get them right now. Well, they didn't plan on being stuck in space for 8 months. Go get them now. That's what I say. Now, this is something that I found out in my research. On 8/30, the New York Post reported that Boeing executives actually wanted to have the astronauts return on the flawed Starliner with all those issues that they knew about. And they end up having this big contentious debate and discussion with NASA, and then NASA overruled, thank God, NASA overruled Boeing and said, no, these astronauts are coming back on the SpaceX aircraft. And I guess the reason why they have to wait is because that's the next ride that they can hitch, right? So guys, this is terrible news. Nothing good about this. I guarantee that there was somebody in some back office or in the quality department that, if we go look at the records, the reports, the emails, the memos, the conversations, that probably warned about this issue. Hey guys, we can't do that. From a quality perspective, we can't do it. From a safety perspective, we can't do that. From a risk assessment perspective, we can't do it. Guys, we already know about these issues back on May the 6th. And we know we talked about doing some workarounds, but we never got down to the root cause of this and implemented proper corrective action. I guarantee you, they're going to find somebody is going to come out that somebody made that warning or notified the management about this, but they were overruled, of course, because Boeing had to get this done, guys. These astronauts were going to launch in June. Somebody made that decision. They didn't care what happened. They were launching, and they did launch. And they implemented whatever workarounds that they could to make sure that they launched. But guys, that's the problem. We cannot let production pressures have us overlook quality, safety, root cause analysis, failure mode effect analysis, testing, implementing corrective action. And even if we have to go back to the drawing board, so what? It's worth it to make sure that people are able to come back home to their families. It's worth it. All right, guys. So one thing that I see that organizations really seem to struggle with, including Boeing, is the concept of the process approach, root cause analysis, and corrective actions, right? Because if we do really good, sound root cause analysis and implement proper corrective action, those problems, they just kind of start going away because we've gotten to the root cause of the issues. But many organizations, they still do not understand the concept of process approach. Now, what is process approach? process approach is what we call plan, do, check, act. We call it PDCA. So we plan before we do things. A lot of organizations want to plan after something bad happens, but we should plan before we do things. Then we need to implement what we planned. See, this is the other issue. A lot of organizations plan, but when it comes to implementation, they actually deviate from what they planned on doing. And then once we implement, we need to check what we did. Is everything working? Is everything functioning? Right? And we need to inspect things. We need to test things. And if things are not working as we planned during the checking phase, then we need to take action, corrective action, or in some cases, preventive action, hopefully, right? Because we don't want to take only corrective action. The whole planning process and risk mitigation is all preventive measures so that when we implement, things are happening per plan. And if we encounter any issues, we've already implemented preventive actions or what we call risk mitigations. Now, if something does occur, then we want to slow down and we want to do root cause analysis. We call that RCA. There's many tools that can be used for this. 5 why technique and many other tools. 8D, things of this nature. Fishbone analysis, all these different tools. But at the end of the day, it's trying to get down to the root cause of why we're having these problems. See, we should do root cause analysis after we launch people into space and then figure out what went wrong. We should do the root cause analysis when we found out about the helium leak and not do a workaround, but we want to do root cause analysis and implement proper corrective action. Now, the other thing that we must understand in the process approach is that we are all inputs and outputs to each other. You are an input or an output to another department. We cannot operate in silos. We have to understand that we are all just simply part of a process, the process for the whole organization, or we are an input or an output to the next process in the organization. So this is what we need to understand when it comes to process approach, inputs and outputs. See, all along the way, Boeing, they got feedback that the checks, when they were doing their checks, that they had that helium leak. They had other malfunctions, but they continued to try to address it through workarounds, as opposed to maybe there are further delays for us to re-engineer something properly. But, we have these production pressures and we got to launch this time. And we're already way behind. So we cannot let production pressures, force us to ignore quality issues, because this is exactly what happens. We end up stranding people, hurting people, unfortunately killing people, and we don't want to do that. So an organization like Boeing, if I were at Boeing, I would outlaw the term workaround. We can't even use the word workaround. How can we use the word workaround when we're launching people into space, when we're flying passengers in the skies? The term workaround at Boeing should be banned for life. Quality issues, we must understand, they typically start at the planning phase. That's where most of these issues end up happening, planning phase. And then they also occur in the implementation phase because we don't do things like we planned on doing. See, most organizations, this all comes down to time and money. Now, which one do we want to spend? Because you're going to spend one of them. You're going to spend the time or you're going to spend the money. And if you don't do it right the first time, we're spending both of those, time and money. That's why it's important to do proper root cause analysis. Because when we do proper root cause analysis, we are not having the same issues over and over again. See, Boeing is having not the necessarily same issue, but the same issues are causing different problems. You guys understand what I'm saying here? See, they are having different problems, but if they go back, the root cause is causing these different problems. It's called the 80-20 rule, the Pareto rule, right? That's what they need to. What are the issues here? The 20% of issues that are causing 80% of these problems that we're having. That's what they need to really get to. All right, guys. So hopefully Boeing is able to get their act together, guys. But I want you to let me know what you think about this Boeing situation, them leaving these astronauts stranded in space for over 8 months here, guys. It's just not acceptable. Do you think they should have launched, or do you think they should have delayed that launch? I think they probably should have delayed the launch. And we're going to pray that in February that we have a safe return home for those astronauts and anyone else returning. So guys, if you feel like our content is valuable for you, I ask that you hit the notification button so that every time we drop new content, that you're the first one to get notified. I ask that you like and share this video. A lot of people need to hear about this exact topic, and they will love it that you shared this video with them. Guys, Oscar Combs here with the ISO 9001 group, helping organizations and people improve operations and reduce risk. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.